Hello, everyone, and welcome to module number 11, and this is part two of our series. And part two is who you need to become to achieve the crypto new rich. So, this next five modules is really about who you personally need to become to be able to achieve what you want to achieve. So, a lot of this is absolutely around mindset and absolutely around setting goals and being able to get to those goals and be able to achieve the things that you want to achieve. And I'm going to give you some clear instructions and also some things that have really worked and been very good for myself in my journey. I by no means am out here saying that I'm some kind of mindset expert or anything like that, but I have been going down this road for a considerable amount of time, and I want to share all the knowledge that I have. But by all means, you should always look at multiple different areas and multiple different pieces of advice when assessing anything, and especially around mindset because it's such a massive, massive topic. But I wanted to wrap it up here for you in a five module series of everything that I've been able to do, and hopefully just even if it's just a little bit of it can rub off onto yourself, so you can achieve your goals and live the your dream life by design, which is ultimately what we want to get to. So a few things I want to cover first. A couple of statements, and one of the big ones that I always live by is that we bring ourselves to the deal. We need to level up and be the best versions of ourselves. And probably some of the best advice I got given quite a while ago now was that take responsibility. Very, very simply, take responsibility. No one's going to come along with a magic wand and fix anything. You need to be in control and take responsibility for the direction you're heading in your life. There's a few sayings I can say here, but one in particular is that the market, as we're obviously talking about money and financials and investing here, the market really doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care that you may have had a tough upbringing. It doesn't care that you may be a particular religion or a race or whatever it may be. It doesn't care. The market doesn't care about you. It doesn't care about your feelings. And you need to level up and be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be, because as much as 80% of success is our mindset and how we handle our emotions, and we're the only ones that are in control of our own emotions. Okay. Now, I would actually argue that this part is even more important than the first 10 modules. Okay. So, obviously, the first 10 modules, a lot of people will look at as vitally important because they're the modules that, have taught me about crypto and buying crypto and what the different ones I should look at and how to safely and securely store it. And that's all fantastic. But if you don't have the right mindset, then ultimately, those first 10 modules don't mean anything. And if you talk to any proven and sophisticated investor in any space, whether it be cryptocurrency or traditional investments, they'll tell you the exact same thing. Ideally, we need to have both. Obviously, we need to have the technical knowledge, but without a doubt, and I always say this, and once again, any sophisticated investor will tell you this, that this whole game of investing is 80% mindset. The 20% technical knowledge you can learn, but if your head isn't right, and you don't have your mindset right, then it's just not going to work in the long term for you. And ultimately, that's what we're looking for. We're looking to be part of the crypto new rich, which is essentially creating wealth through crypto and generational wealth. So this first part that we're going to be covering is vision and goals for achieving success. We need to be crystal clear on what we want and how we are going to get there. Now, there's a variety of areas that we're going to cover when we go through this. Okay, a variety of areas, but being very clear on what you want to do is such a crucial part of this. So something as simple as a vision board is a perfect example of this. You know, getting yourself a blank piece of paper, a blank piece of cardboard, writing down where you want to be in 1, 2, 5, 10 years time. Even if you don't want to write it down, cut pictures out of the kind of house you want to have, or the life that you want to have, or maybe it's the part of the world that you want to live. Whatever it may be, you need to have clear visions. You need to have crystal clear visions of where it is that you want to go and where it is that you want to be and what it is that you want to achieve. There are two things here. Number one is our goals and our vision. And number two is goals and vision for your crypto journey. Okay. Now, I'm going to focus on first, obviously, goals and vision. This was me. Well, not directly me. I'm not the guy there with the bald head and the glasses. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but this was me, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, stuck in a crowded train, traveling to work in a very busy train from my area where I lived to in the middle of the city in Sydney. And most people believe that this is acceptable. Okay. At the time, I believed and thought it was as well. Now I cringe every time I have to go into the center of a big city like Sydney or Brisbane or Melbourne or wherever it is that you may be anywhere in the world, literally living like a sheep, right? Every time I have to catch a train, I literally wonder how people do it. People are complaining. They're not willing to do anything about it. They're living for the weekend. They can't wait until Friday. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't mind when Friday happens and, you can have maybe a nice dinner out with friends or whatever. And I get that. I understand that. But there's more to life than just this. Why not create a business and a life that is fun all year round? There's no reason that you have to be stuck in a confined space like this Monday to Friday. Most people, they're just not willing to do anything about it. And they just want to, sometimes I just want to shake them and show them that there really is a better way. Now, there's a fog over the land for about 97% of people, like a wicked witch, shall we say, has put a fog over the land for the masses, right? Like sheep. 100% of people want success. There's no doubt about that. I believe that everyone wants to achieve, the most that they feel that they can achieve in this life. But the reality is that only 3% of people are willing to actually do what it takes. Okay. Now, there's a very knowledgeable person by the name of Perry Belcher, and he said this. He said 100% of people want success, only 3% of people are willing to do what it takes, like I just said. And I think this is something that you need to repeat the same thing over and over and over again. And it doesn't matter the amount of times that I may say this or someone else may say this, or you may hear it from somewhere else. Hopefully this is the last time that you have had to hear this, that there's such a low percentage of people that are willing to do anything and you actually go and take action. Hopefully you are someone that I'm talking to that has actually gone out and started to take action. I feel that since you have purchased this program and you're listening to these video modules, you obviously are one of those people. But unfortunately, most people's financial education stops, before it's even started, really. And you need to quickly shake that off and realize and understand that, you know what, there's such a low percentage of people that are going to make it through this successfully. And you need to tell yourself that I want to be one of them. Let's talk about the rat race. Okay, so a rat race is an endless self defeating or let's say pointless pursuit, right? it's the phrase essentially that equates humans to rats, attempting to earn a reward such as cheese, right? In vain, obviously. But it may also refer to a competitive struggle to get ahead financially or routinely. And this is the kind of feeling that I felt personally. And maybe you feel the same thing. I'd like to think that seeing you, as once again, seeing you've purchased this program and seeing you watching these videos, that you're feeling the same thing. That 9 to 5 grind of we call Groundhog Day. Whether it's financially or routinely, and it's essentially the rat race, right? And most people do this rat race for their entire working life, which is quite often their entire life, yet they still retire broke, dependent on pensions, government handouts, without ever wondering if there is a better way of actually doing anything about it. Now, what if there is a better way? And the facts are that we don't have to live this way. And once again, I truly hope that as you have purchased this program and you're watching these videos, that you're one of those people that believe that there absolutely is a better way. This is a movie for those that may remember or have seen it. William Wallace, Mel Gibson here in Braveheart in 1995. Now, he says every man dies, but not every man really lives. Most people die with their dreams still inside them. Did you really think, that you were born? I say this all the time. Do you really think you were born just to pay bills, come home, go to bed, wake up, go to work, pay bills again, come home, go to bed, repeat, right? It's just not a life. And as Mel Gibson quoted here, when he was playing William Wallace in Braveheart, right? All men die, not every man really lives. Now, I always say if you have a dream, if you have a vision, you need to go for it, right? Life, it's a series of moments, a series of scenes. Are yours going to be average or are they going to be extraordinary? I personally am not relying on that we may be reincarnated and have a second shot at this. What if you only get one shot at this? So that's the kind of thing that I really like to share with people and hopefully can resonate with them. This really hit me when I read this recently. We have two lives, and the second begins when we realize we only have one. And this was something that I saw recently at an event that I was at, and it was a poster that was on the wall, and I since found it, and it just really hit me when I read this sentence, and this really is something that I completely 100,000% agree with, that our second life begins when we realize that we only have one. And this is something here, right? Who else has had this, right? Where they've laughed at us along the way, right? And I always say this. I say, back in 2016, imagine the amount of people that were laughing at me when I first got into Bitcoin and things like that, right? Not many are laughing now. I still get it, right? But as I said, not so many are laughing now. And I used to hear things like, even up until recently, oh, you've been doing this for such a long time now. What are you still trying to get rich? And it's, we just can't be worried about what other people think. And this is a big issue that so many people have. And sometimes people don't even realize that they have this issue, and they rely so much on what other people think. And if we relate it to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, not too many people are now laughing at me with my magic internet money, as they call it now, right? But absolutely the same can be for yourself, even if you're just starting in Bitcoin and crypto now. There are so many skeptics still. And don't be that person in 12, 18, 24 months that looks back and goes, wow, I had that opportunity and I just didn't take that step. I wasn't an action taker. Um, because all those people who were laughing at me back then are now people that are asking me now, Troy, can you teach me? Right. And that's going to be a similar experience that you will have as well. We're at such an amazing time in history, an amazing time in history, especially when we look at it from through the eyes of technology and the internet and these incredible things that we have. And the thing is that everyone is different, right? So what does success mean to you, right? What does success mean to you? Because as I said before, we're at an amazing time in history where we have this opportunity of this incredible technology at our fingertips called the internet. And we have the ability to be able to achieve things that our even our parents and our absolutely our grandparents and great grandparents would have never ever thought possible. So we need to clearly define and get visions and goals and really work out that what does success actually mean to you? Because we're all chasing success, but are we actually clear about what it is, right? Because it's different for each of us, right? My success is completely different from your success, from someone else's success, and I would love for you as you're going through these modules, get a blank piece of paper and a pen. I mean, you can pause these videos whenever you want and write down how would you define success? Write down some things how you would define success. Like so if you see yourself in 1 year, 2 year, 5 years, 10 years from now, what would you deem as success for you? So for me, all right, just to share from my perspective, for me, success is freedom. Okay. So it's not about the big wealth, although obviously that certainly is nice. Often, it's I want to earn $10 million a year type thing that people say. But really, is that what it actually is, right? So if you look back over life when you're 80, what are you going to say? Very few of us are going to be, well, I wish I worked harder, right? But many of us, okay, many of us, that was a reality, right? For many of people, that's an actual reality of what happened to them, right? Was that they worked extremely hard for long periods of time and now have very, very little to show for it. So it's freedom to do what you want with who you want without having to worry about it, right? And you may have heard, if you've heard me talk about this before, potentially, but I've given a lot of thought about this lately, right? And this is also why, for myself, I like to create a good lifestyle for myself and my family, and I live in this beautiful part of the world near the ocean on the east coast of Australia, and it kind of plays into the fact of what freedom feels like to me, but that might not mean what freedom feels like to you. Maybe freedom feels like to you to be living, on acres and acres and acres of land in the middle of a desert somewhere, right? I'm not saying that you need to go live near the ocean to feel freedom. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that think about where it is and what it is that makes you feel that way. Okay. And it doesn't mean that we're not willing to work hard. Of course, we're willing to work hard to make it happen. But for us, it means being strategic with timings as to when we actually do this, right? So freedom of time, people, location, mindset, right? I do get that freedom takes money, right? That's where we need the hustle, the balance, the multiple income streams. That's where we need to be looking outside of the circle. We can't just be within the rat race doing the 9 to 5 Groundhog Day thing every single day. So what are you chasing, right? What are you actually building? It needs to be meaningful. It needs to be specific. It needs to be documented. This is what I said before, that feel free as you're going through these videos to have a blank piece of paper and a pen, writing these things down. You can pause the video and play it again or whatever you need to do. But I'm going to help you with some strategies and tactics and things like that, because everyone wants some strategies and tactics to kind of get started, and that's what we're going to be working on. But these are only good if you know where you are actually going and what you actually want. So that's where I was saying before, you need to have clear and defined goals of of where your vision is, right? A vision board of where you see yourself in the next year, the next 5 years, the next 10 years. Chasing just money, it just isn't enough, right? It's great in the start, right? Because that's survival mode. I get it. We've all been there, right? I understand. I need to make this amount of money this month to live, to pay the bills, to be able to put food on the table for the family. I get it. Trust me, I've been there 100%. But if you're after freedom, like true freedom in your life, then it has to be much more than just the money. Okay. If you do the exact same thing as everyone else, do you think you will actually get there? The answer is no, right? Or a very good chance that you won't get there if you're just doing the same thing that everyone else is doing, right? The rest of the sheep are doing, right? So myself, I've been able to achieve a level of freedom in my life that most people would love. You know, got a beautiful house, as I said, on the east coast here of Australia. I guess you could say living the laptop lifestyle. I travel the world, talking to people about what I love and I'm passionate about Bitcoin and crypto, and everything is completely online. So it doesn't matter where I am in the world. Lots of people want that kind of freedom, and that's great, but most people are not willing to do what it actually takes to achieve that. So my goal for you is freedom, right? We now have a higher degree of freedom than we have ever had, well and truly, right? In the top 1% of the world in this space, especially if you are going to be an action taker and enter this space. You're entering into Bitcoin and crypto at such an early time still. Um, uh, and there's a fascinating quote from Andrew and Darrell Grant, which says, "Money comes at you harder and faster than you ever thought possible, and you wonder where it's been hiding all this time, right?" And this is the kind of thing that when you have clear visions, have clear goals, you understand what it is that you're actually chasing, what it is you want to build. But like I said, you need to be meaningful, specific, and you need to document what that actually is. You need to understand and know what is your why. Okay, what is your why? Why is it that you're doing this? If the hurt is bad enough and you want to take a jump, take a leap of faith, right? Ask yourself, why are you learning this stuff? Why am I locked into these videos, listening to this Bitcoin and crypto guy talk about all this stuff? Why are you actually learning this? What is your why? Why do you want or need to succeed in what it is that you're doing in your life, in business? I think it's crucial. I think it's crucial to know this. Then you can know that it's a must, right? That it's a must that you need to do this. One thing I learned from Tony Robbins is turn our shoulds into musts, right? Instead of saying should, turn that into a must, and you'll achieve far greater success in this world because we behave differently for things that we must do, not things that we should do. Things that we must do, we're going to behave completely differently. So the most important thing in my world is obviously my family, my wife, my kids. And what I truly want to do is be able to create an extraordinary life for them. Make sure it's lots of fun. Teaching them the world and showing them what is possible. Right, I want to show my kids what is absolutely possible, and they don't need to be in a rat race, and they don't need to go through the hard struggle that I went through, that I thought you had to do, doing the 9 to 5 whole rat race thing. So you need to have a clear and defined understanding of what is your why, because over time it needs to be bigger than you and money, right? So you persevere and get through those really, really intense early stages, and those stages, they certainly don't ease up. It needs to be bigger than just you and the money. Okay. Our concept is for the ripple effect, right? And I've spoken about this before. You may or may not have heard it. And I say, like, have you thought about what you're actually doing, right? Are you making a positive impact into the world? Are you actually making a positive impact? Because this whole thing is just energy. The energy you give out is always the energy that you're going to receive back. If we love what we do with the collective, right, then we're making a positive impact on lives. And whether it be in your business, you're making a positive impact potentially on your business, your employees, or maybe it's just within your family, you're making a positive impact on your family's lives, then the ripple effect and the positive energy from that is always going to come back. So just as an example, for myself, obviously I've got a amazing business, and been able to create an incredible business with some amazing business partners and everything like that. But none of it would be possible without the positive energy that is there to start with, and what you give off is always going to be what comes back around. I believe in karma massively, a lot, as in the positive energy you give out is what you get back. And karma in this world, as a general rule, right? The more good that you do, the more good that will inevitably come back your way. Okay. Now, what would your goals be if you couldn't fail? Right. So if you couldn't actually fail, what would your goals be? Is that what you are working on or what you're working towards now? Right. So if you 100% could not fail to achieve what your goals are, is that what you are working on or what you're working towards now? Now, in my opinion, this is massive. All right. This was from Glenn Twiddle, and I believe this question, it changed my life. Chances are, right, there's a gap. Chances are that there's something in your mind that's always telling you that, oh, but no, I could fail. I can't do that because I could fail. And I always say, bugger that, right? Someone's going to use another word there, guys. Bugger that. Like, don't worry about that. You need to go for it, right? You need to go for it. That's if you look back what I've done and where I've come from, just me personally, right? I have no formal education. I've got no university degree. I left school at the age of 15. I come from a trade background. This is everything that I've achieved and what I've done. I've done from being an action taker and taking that step and doing it, right? If your goal is different, right, then the goal that could be that if you 100% couldn't fail, then you need to align them. You need to ensure that that goal that you want to get to, right, that has no substitutes, that you're not just accepting the goal, right? You have that vision, you have that clear goal that you want to go towards. And in your mind, 100% you cannot fail. That needs to be the goal, the vision that you're working towards right now. That's what you need to be doing. What is the gap, right? What is the actual gap? Well, this is it, right? Your current investing, maybe your business, your lifestyle, your wealth, and your freedom. And the gap is where you want your dream investing, your dream business, your dream lifestyle, your dream wealth and freedom, right? That is the gap. And that is the gap that you need to be able to fill. And I've said this before, how bad is the hurt? How much do you actually want this? Because I can tell you right now that if you don't want this enough, then there's plenty of other people that want it more. And if they want it more, then they're going to achieve it much sooner than what you're going to achieve. The reality is, most people want things, but they're simply just not willing to do anything about going and getting them. The masses, right, they're generally wrong. If you do the same as everybody else, you will end up with average results at best, the same as everybody else. You'll end up retiring broke, relying on government pensions to survive. How many people do you know that are your parents' age, your grandparents' age, whatever it is, who did the model of go and get a good job, work hard, and then they retired broke, and then now they're living off a pension? Or in some cases, They're now in countries that no longer have a pension, right? Do you seriously think that a lot of countries, you may be listening to this in Australia or maybe other countries that still currently have a pension for old age, that's not always going to be there. That's not a guaranteed thing that'll always happen. Nearly everyone I know that age, around the retirement age, has done what they were told was the right thing to do. Go and get a good job and work hard. And now they're retired and they're broke, right? The stupid thing is that they're telling me and us that we should go and do the same thing, right? It's just crazy, crazy logic. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Um, and this is the challenge you are going to have to be able to break that rat race. And you need to want it more. You need to want it more than the next person. That's the only way that this is going to work. Are you willing to do what it takes? Are you willing to do what it takes? Because 100% of people want it. Like I said, only 3% of people are willing to do what it takes. So 100 people watching this, only 3 people are willing to do what it takes to actually achieve it. You need to answer this honestly. Will you learn what you need to do, right? Will you actually implement after you watch these modules and you learn what you need to learn and you do what you have to do? And will you actually be an action taker and go and implement it with speed? Are you going to get assistance when you need it so you can get there faster? Are you going to ensure, right, that you're going to do absolutely everything that you can to fast track yourself to be able to get to that point, right? I've traveled the world seeking out mentors and talking to mentors and speaking to people that are hugely successful over and over and over again. And these are the things they say time and time and time again. To create your dream lifestyle by design, you need to be willing to do what it takes. Because what we want and what we need on this journey may be different. Often, when I come off stage, I meet people in their early 20s and things like that, and they want it all now. All right. They say, "Oh, I want to be where you are. I want to be doing what it is that you're doing, but I want to do it right now." But the thing is that they haven't done their time yet. They haven't learned. They haven't tested. They haven't made mistakes. They haven't measured. Right. The universe says you don't deserve it yet, but you don't get your black belt without having done the work, right? Without having put in the years of work and sacrifice to get to that point, right? If you just got it overnight and it just happened, well, then it'd just be pointless. It would be worthless, right? So what we want and what we need on this journey may be 2 different things. We can't avoid the struggles that make us great. Franklin D. Roosevelt said, "A smooth sea never made a skilled mariner," right? No matter how rough the sea, you have to keep standing no matter what. You just can't give up. You cannot give up because you're the one that is ultimately steering your ship. Okay. I'm always trying to be cruising, just seeking, peace and seeking happiness. But the thing is that you've got to be able to keep standing up, right? I think it was Stephen Dixon who often said a wise thing. He said, "Wisdom will come to you in the most unlikeliest of sources, and a lot of times that's through failure. And failure is something that we need to embrace more because that is the biggest way, and the biggest way that I've consistently learned is when I've failed. When you're struggling, remembering this, right? You've hit rock bottom. It can also be an amazing foundation on which to build on, right? On which to grow. When you hit rock bottom and you know you're at rock bottom, the great thing is you can't go any lower, right? So you have a fantastic foundation to be able to build up front, right? This is a great way of thinking about it, in my opinion, right? We can't control the fact that bad things are going to happen, but it's how we react to them. It's how we react to those things that happen. And that's what really matters, is how we react to those situations. There is no glory in success if there is no struggle. Okay. It's from Ryan Daniel Moran. I believe it's a fantastic quote, and it's so true. There's no glory in success if there is no struggle. Often we try to avoid problems, but the thing is, the problems, they often make us better. Okay, calm seas don't make for a skillful mariner, like we said before, right? If it's a calm sea, you're not going to learn anything, right? You're not going to get skillful with this, right? If I could win the lottery or go down this path with all the hurt and pain, I'd still choose this journey of all the bruises and all the hurt and all the pain, because now I've earned it, right? Now it's something that you actually deserve. And the journey is hard. Okay. We have to be willing to do what others won't to get results that others won't get. But the facts are that it's worth it. We're going to work hard to create an easy life. But the biggest takeaway that I've got from a day was when I heard, I believe it was Craig Ballantyne, and he said, you have to live life that hard way to have an easy life, right? He explained that it's easy to hit the snooze button. Of course, it's easy when the alarm goes off to hit the snooze button. It's easy to go out drinking with friends. It's easy to cheat on your diet. But however, if you choose not to succumb to what is easy, you will have things others don't. And it's as simple as that. And it's so true, right? When we take the easy way, we stay within our comfort zone. If we take the hard way, we grow, and each time it gets a little easier, right? So each time we get out of that comfort zone and we get into what I call the learning zone and finally the growth zone, that is when we continuously grow and things do keep getting easier. We want it all right now, all right? But as the great Tony Robbins says, progress equals happiness. People in their 20s, as I said before, they keep asking me, I want what you have. I want it now, right? Everyone wants it now. I want to do it right now. I want to get it done right now. I'm 41 as I've done this. I've done my 10,000 plus hours, right? It's a big difference from people who maybe have just left school or whatever. And there's people that'll be listening to this that are maybe in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s that have done a heck of a lot more than me, right? And your time is now as well. It is your time now to be able to do this, right? It's your time now to be able to do this, because progress absolutely always equals happiness. And we become like bamboo. Things you are learning, things that you are doing, right? Some of them, they will bear fruit now, right? But some of them, they may take years before you maximize them. We're still bearing things from things that I did 10, 12 years ago, from masterminds that I ran then, right? You don't know the flow-on effect of what you are doing right now. So like any plant, I like to say the growth of the bamboo, the Chinese bamboo tree, it requires nurturing, water, obviously fertile soil, sunshine, all these kinds of things. Now, in its first year, you don't really see any visible signs of activity. In the second year, again, no real growth above the soil. The third, the fourth, still nothing, right? Our patience, it's tested. And we begin to wonder if all these efforts that we did earlier, from caring it, from watering it, will it ever be rewarded? And then finally, in the fifth year, behold, wow, a miracle, right? We experience growth. And that is truly what growth is. It's essentially like a Chinese bamboo tree, right? And then what happens in that fifth year? The Chinese bamboo tree then grows 80 feet in just 6 weeks. So often we plant a lot of these amazing seeds and we do a lot of these amazing things, and we feel like we're doing these things over and over and over again and nothing's happening. But the true facts are that you're planting these incredible bamboo shoots that, quite often it takes until the fifth year, and then all of a sudden they shoot up in the air. But these are things I hear all the time. But Troy, I'm busy, right? The facts are this, though. Most people spend up to 5 hours a day watching TV, Netflix, YouTube, staring at their phones, right? Most people, they work 8 hours a day, say 7 hours for sleeping, let's say. That still leaves 9 hours to hustle and make things happen, right? But quite a lot of people are saying, "Oh, Troy, I'm too busy," and really what they're doing is watching that latest Netflix app. I'm not saying you can't watch TV, don't get me wrong, but then don't go complaining to me that nothing's ever changing and your life's staying the same. We can't stay the same as everyone else and expect then to get a different result. You need to think bigger thoughts and dream bigger dreams. This is something that my great friend Greg Casser said, and it resonates so very much. We need to think bigger thoughts and dream bigger dreams. The great things about masterminds that I've held previously, and things that may have been things that you've learned years and years ago. It teaches you to think bigger thoughts, dream bigger dreams. It shows you what's possible, and your subconscious brain also understands it's achievable because others are achieving it as well, right? It gives you time to stop and think and figure out a lot of good things that are happening now. As an example, that I'm going through with my business and my life and my journey and things like that were from seeds that I planted years ago, sometimes a decade ago, right? And that is because there's huge things here that we need to understand, and growth quite often takes a lot of time, and patience is something that people just quite simply don't have. So we quite simply need to be changing our thoughts, right? Which will change our actions and ultimately change our results. We need to become the best version of me that we can become, right? So that's what you need to become, the best version of yourself that you can become. Hell on earth would be to meet the man or woman that you could have been. This was from an unnamed monk to Keith Cunningham, and I think this is such a an amazing quote that I read, because in my opinion, it absolutely is. If I could meet the person that I could have been, um, then that's something I don't want to do. I do not want to have any regret at all in my life. And I'd like to think once again that you've watching these videos, you're going through these lessons, these modules. I'd like to think that you're thinking the same. The biggest commitment you can make in life is the commitment you make to yourself, the commitment you make to your life, your commitment to your own growth. It's a commitment to your own learning. This is the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people. The key is not whether or not you make a mistake. It's absolutely not that. The key is, do you learn from your mistakes? So as this quote says here, so Keith Cunningham, he was on a pilgrimage, and he was learning from monks, trying to find a life direction after he went broke and getting divorced. I thought this quote was an amazing thing, right? To become the best me. I always say something to people, and this is something that you can do yourself, right? Sit down and write your own obituary. What would people write about you if you, obviously, hypothetically, you don't want this to happen, but you were to finish watching this module, you went out and got hit by a bus? What would people write in your obituary? What are you going to be remembered for? Is it really about financial freedom, or is it something else? Right? Is it something that's more important than what you want? There's a significant difference between success and mastery. Success is about achieving the goal. All right. Mastery is creating the best me in terms of my health, my wealth, my success, right? When your outcome is mastery, then that is something truly amazing. And that's where you want to be focusing, and where you want to be. You need to be focusing on becoming the best version of yourself that you can become. And truly, it is all worth it, because ultimately we are building coolness factor, right? What can I do to increase my business's coolness factor? This is often something that is brought up, right? Ultimately, it's about being happy, not just about making more money, right? Who's winning? It's not about the most money. It's about the coolness factor. If our income goes up and our stress goes up, then our coolness factor stays the same, or it's probably worse, right? In reality. But if the income stays the same and the stress goes down, then I like to say the coolness factor is up, right? Because the income's still the same, but my stress level's going down. That's much better for me. It's certainly not about the money, right? Ideally, I want the income to go up and I want the stress to go down. But I don't want the coolness factor to be off the chart. If the income goes up and the coolness factor is in code red and going crazy, I don't want that. I want the coolness factor to be in the right spot. We all want more coolness, right? And by what I mean by coolness is not dressing cool and as this gentleman here has, got his funky glasses on and looking all stress free. But essentially what it is more freedom, more happiness, right? The coolness factor is are you truly happy with what you're doing? And if that means that you're earning more money but you're more stressed, then you've got your coolness factor all wrong. Of course, the coolness factor, right, is income over stress, right? Income down, coolness down, stress up, coolness down, right? So if there's extra stress, right, that's not what we want. We want the coolness to be down, right? We want the coolness to be down. It's always income over stress. So these are the three essential components for reaching our goals: education and knowledge, strategy, execution. What I like to say is, or what I like to call ESE, right? Education and knowledge, strategy, execution, ESE. And the great news is, all right, it's all 100% achievable. Okay. And it's not some kind of crazy thing or some insane dialect that you need to do, right? It's quite simply just if you want it bad enough, you can do it. Okay, it's quite simply that, because if we refer back to this now, the three essential components for reaching our goals is education and knowledge, which you're doing right now by going over these modules as an example, having a strategy, right? Clear strategy, writing out a clear vision and goals down, which is hopefully what you're doing, and then executing them, right? It's great to get the knowledge. It's great to write down the strategy, but if you don't execute it and go out there and actually take action, then none of it's going to mean anything, right? So executing it, ESE, is what we want to do. To engineer success and freedom, this is what you need: big vision or a goal and a reason why. You need to take massive action. You need to learn. You need to consistently evolve, consistently change, like this goldfish has done. Don't be afraid to jump out of one bowl to try something new. You need to seek continual mastery and improvement. And you need to be willing to do whatever it takes to change. That's the big thing. You've got to be willing to do whatever it takes to be able to change and do this, right? We need our health. We need our fitness, our mindset, our emotions, our financial IQ. We need all of that, right? They're all the things that we need to take with us. And this is a whole package deal. Being an entrepreneur isn't a job, right? It's a calling. It's your life. You need to be able, you need to be willing, sorry, to take those massive actions, to continuously learn, to continuously evolve, continuously change. But what you're going to be able to achieve is what the 97% quite simply will never achieve, and get out of that rat race. So the two things here, right? We just covered the first, and the second thing here is relating this to your crypto. What exactly do you want to achieve from your investing? Okay. So over the short term and the long term. So let's look at a few things here. House, we want to achieve capital to start a business, maybe. We want to get out of our day job. Maybe you want to get a dream car. Maybe you want to get capital to set you up for the next Bitcoin 4-year cycle, right? Now, once again, these are all things that you can write down on your vision board, whether it be a 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 10-year plan, right? Short term, long term. If you want these things bad enough, you can do any of these things, right? Absolutely, it's possible, but you need to be clear on your visions of what you want to do and how many cycles will it take to potentially achieve that. Are you willing to do what it takes? Once again, are you willing to do what it takes for this to potentially to potentially achieve? It may take one cycle, two cycle, three cycle, depending on how big those goals and those visions are. But once again, the wealthiest and the smartest and most sophisticated investors in the world are willing to do whatever it takes over whatever period of time that it takes to achieve that. So 1, 2, 3+ cycles. Well, if it takes 3+ cycles, are you willing to take that amount of time to achieve that? 1 cycle, 2 cycle, 3+. That's what you got to be willing to do, depending on what those goals are. And what specific dollar amount do you want to achieve this cycle? Now, right, some things remember to consider the goal that you want, right, out of this cycle. Obviously, the tax that you need to pay on any gains that you make, and the capital to invest in the next cycle. But once again, if you want this bad enough, you can do it. And sometimes we've got to set our goals within the particular cycle. Okay. And sometimes, obviously, we don't want to limit our goals, but you also need to be somewhat realistic with the goals, right? If you're starting with $100, we don't want to go, oh, okay, I want to be a billionaire in 12 months' time, right? You obviously need to be somewhat realistic. So be honest and be fair to yourself as well. With your allocated capital, what multiple do you need to achieve to be able to get to those goals within this cycle, within the next cycle, potentially the following cycle? Once again, if you want it bad enough, you can do it. Do you need to get a 5x? Is it a 10x? Is it a 20x, right? That's the kind of thing that you need to think of as well. And then once again, put it into perspective, talk to your mentors, talk to people you know and trust. And is this something that is achievable that you can do within this cycle? Is it going to take 2 cycles? Is it going to take 3? Once again, patience is absolutely key here. And it's important, right, when you achieve your goal to exit the market with the cash, right? This is a very common problem that I see so many people that they hold on wanting more and more and more. They ride the wave up to the top of the cycle and then ride it all the way back down again, right? Nearly everyone I know that's been in crypto has made this mistake. So I'm truly hoping that being part of this Crypto New Rich program and being part of what we do here, that's absolutely not going to be a mistake that you make. So that was the first part in these five last modules. That was module number 11. The next one's going to be module number 12. All on mindset. The next one is all about emotional intelligence for success. Okay, emotional intelligence for success. So we're going to get stuck into that. So for everyone that has been listening into this module, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the feedback. Thank you for everything. And I'll see you all in the next module, module number 12, which is emotional intelligence for success.